So I'm back in the kitchen with my new BFF, my new heartthrob, Chef Matt Carter from The Mission, and we are putting the finishing touches on his version of my sun-dried tomato pasta. Are you red?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. These lights are warm, you know.
He's a good-looking man,
Hey,
Stephanie.
lady, you're coming back to me to make the sun-dried tomato pasta.
I'm a loud guy in the kitchen. Definitely never loss of words, but for some reason today you've just shut me down. So.
Well, I kind of like that. I like that I have that effect. So in the last, what, say 5-6 minutes, what have you done?
In the last 6 minutes, we've taken the little white wine that we plumped our golden raisins in, reduced that down, added our raisins to it, and then added a little of our chicken stock. We want the raisins to kind of plump up a little bit and lose a little bit of that sweetness, even though we're going to be adding most of it to it. This way the sweetness isn't just when you bite into the raisin, it's actually come into the sauce as well.
Okay.
In the pan that I toasted the pine nuts off, I added a little olive oil, and then I sauteed off my cipollini onions, my red onions, and caramelized those a little bit, and then deglazed that with chicken stock also. So at this point, I'm going to start assembling my sauce. My chicken breast has been seared on both sides. It's finishing in the oven. I've got my chopped up confit leg. I've got my confit thigh, my toasted pine nuts. One trick about those pine nuts, too, whether you're doing it in the oven or doing it in the pan, one of the big rules is to make sure you take them out slightly lighter than the color you want to finish them, because they get really hot to bring that color out.
Continue
they
cooking?
keep cooking. They keep cooking. So take them out a little bit lighter than what you really want them to finish as.
Nice
so
and toasty tasty.
nice and toasty. So now in my cipollini onion red wine or red onion chicken stock reduction over here, I'm going to start adding some of my oven dried tomatoes. These are just a mixture of little heirloom tomatoes in there. And I'm going to add a little bit of those are like dried, still moist in the center. These are really dried, like shaved Campari tomatoes. I'm going to put a little in there as well. You get two different flavors out of one that's really dried. You get a little, almost like a dried
one's like
pepper.
a bitter and one's like a moisty.
Correct. You're going to get a little more sweetness out of the ones that are a little soft, and a little more of that dry kind of roasted flavor out of the other one. So I'm going to add those in there.
So
they start plumping up.
To try this.
So we're going to plump those up, and then we're going to add a little bit of our raisins that we've plumped up here. Just enough in there, and I'm going to add probably most of the liquid that was in there.
Did you drink the rest of the wine that you used?
Yes. When nobody was looking, I snuck down and added that to it.
Yes, we can still be friends.
So I've got some tomatoes in here. As I'm looking at it, I've got a little bit too much onion to tomato ratio, so I'm going to add more tomatoes into that, just so I have an even amount across my pasta.
You want half and half? Or you want a little bit more on the...
Probably, 2 to 1.
Okay.
Or maybe 3 to 1 on the tomatoes. So my chicken's in the oven. What we're going to do is we're going to let that continue to cook down. At the last minute, I'm going to add a little more stock here.
And this was the stock that we used from the chicken that
bones
we
from
have
the
in the
chicken.
oven and
Correct.
also in the confit. Okay.
Now I'm going to add a little bit of the spinach that the recipe calls for. And we're going to cook that down. I don't want to cook the spinach on the side. I want all the flavor from the spinach to go in there. Now remember, that spinach virtually disappears once it gets hot, so put a good healthy amount.
You know what I did? I cut mine. That's probably not good.
And you can cut it as well.
Oh, okay.
These are smaller leaves also. This is a Savoy spinach, so they're a little smaller and a little tighter. They have a little crunch. Now, I'd have to concur with John Paul on adding a little bitterness, so I also brought a little arugula.
And salt, probably.
And salt, yes. So I'm going to mix my spinach up half and half with arugula, and that's going to add some bitterness, some spice, and some bite
Okay, so we've
to
got
the
like,
dish.
I'd say 30 seconds before we're going to have to wrap it all up
Wrap it all
plate
up.
it up.
We're really, really close.
We're close?
We're
okay.
very, very close. So
Any last little things that we should know before we...
last minute, the two things that I'm going to finish with at the very end, I'm going to finish with, after this is cooked down, I add my pasta and I add my chicken, I'm going to season it, I'm going to taste it. I'm going to add a little chili to it. I've got a little Spanish split pepper and just a little standard dry chili flake. I've got some Parmesan, I'm going to add some basil to it. I'm going to add a little bit of butter because I'm French. I like to bind up the sauce. And then I'm going to adjust my acidity level with a little lemon.
Are we going to do that in 1 minute?
Yes.
Really?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to go really,
if
really
you
fast.
guys could see what we get to see during the break. All right. Well, then let the 1 minute begin.
Begin. Excellent.
All right. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and see what the judges think. Already, are you guys thinking? Maybe? Maybe?